Hello everybody and welcome to the Football Philosophy channel. In just over an hour, it's United away at Sheffield United at Bramall Lane. Team news should be out in 10 minutes or even less, so can't wait for that. Little bit of news first. There's another vote today. The big clubs are trying to get the 5 substitute rule pushed through. I'm glad it was rejected again. I'm glad it was rejected. I don't think the big clubs should really have the upper hand over the little clubs when they've got such a big squad, and obviously United are included in this. I noticed that Liverpool played Spurs last night. They didn't even make a substitution, and United played City on Saturday, and United only made 1 substitution when they brought Anthony Martial on. I appreciate in these big games they don't want to take any risks and lose any points, but at the same time, if they want to use 4 or 5 subs against the smaller clubs when they happen to be, if they happen to be 2 or 3 goals up, which is I'm sure what would happen, I'm sure that's what they're thinking of. They can rest all their players when they're playing against the smaller clubs, and they've got the quality of the squad that they've got. The clubs like United and Liverpool. I think it's a bit out of order. It's not. To me, it's not a genuine thing that they're actually that concerned about the well-being of the players when they're letting a whole game go by without making a sub. And as I say, United only made the 1 substitution. The quality that United had on the bench as well with Van der Beek and Mata and Matic. To me, you're not weakening your side anyway if you do make a substitution, and they're still not doing it. So that was rejected today. Right to the game. Massive 3 points for us. A lot of people saying we're going to smash them. I'm not convinced by that. I hope we do, and I think we can. I mean, obviously we've got the quality to be able to smash them. On a given day, we could smash anybody. That's football. We've got the quality to do that. Obviously, the bottom of the league, Sheffield United, they've got 1 point from 12 games, which is an horrendous return, 1 point from 12 games. In fact, I'd love to know if it's the worst ever start in the Premier League, if you call it a start after 12 games. They're well into the season, really. So to have 1 point after 12 games is particularly poor. But the more interesting side of it to me is that Sheffield United have only conceded 21 goals in 24 games. So they're not conceding 2 goals a game. It's less than 2 goals a game. As I say, they've conceded 21. For example, Liverpool have conceded 19. I know they let 7 in at Villa, but Liverpool have conceded 19. United have conceded 17, only 4 less than Sheffield United. And again, I know we let 6 in against Spurs. But, overall, we've not let that many goals in less than Sheffield United have, and neither have Liverpool. And although we've both had 2 good hidings, Liverpool at Villa and us against Spurs, if you can look above us in the table. Both Everton and Southampton have conceded 18 goals. They're both above United in the table. They've only conceded 3 goals less than Sheffield United have. It isn't a great deal of difference. It really isn't. So if they set themselves up properly, Sheffield United, they've got a great chance of making it difficult for you. As I say, less than 2 goals a game, if you think about it, is 1 point something. So that, really, there's, in a manner, you could argue they're letting 1 goal a game in quite often. So I think they may well be due a hammering, and it could be us that gives it. And because they're getting beat every week, it's not good for the confidence. They might well be due a hammering. But when they're only letting 1 point something goals in a game, they're also due a clean sheet. And either of those 2 things could happen, really, really soon. I'm not suggesting tonight that they'll keep a clean sheet. I'm also not suggesting, that we'll hammer them. I think it could easily be a tough game. The earlier you get your first goal, if you do get a first goal, of course, but the earlier you get it, the more chance you have of getting a few. So hopefully United can get a goal early. But the longer they hang on and make it tough, the longer it's 0-0. It could be a difficult night for us. Hopefully we get an early goal. As ever, I've looked at the newspapers to see what they're going with. The predictions for the teams. Team news, what time is it now? Team news should be out in 6 or 7 minutes now. The Manchester Evening News have gone with Henderson in goal, so they think they're going to give Henderson a game. I wouldn't do that myself. I think you're tempting fate. It'd be a shame if he threw one in at the club where he's been playing now for so long and done so well for him. But the Manchester Evening News are going with Henderson. They're going with Wan-Bissaka, Lindelof, Maguire and Shaw. So no Telles. A lot of people seem to think that Telles should get a game tonight. Manchester Evening News have gone with McTominay and Fred, and they have gone with Bruno at number 10, and they've gone with Greenwood, Marshall and Rashford. That that was really, apart from Fred in for Matic, that was the team that was winning games on the bounce by 3 clear goals. You know, just after lockdown, we won 4 games on the bounce by 3 clear goals, and it's the exact same lineup that, apart from Fred's in it for Matic. So Bruno, Greenwood, Marshall, and Rashford was his favoured. You know, a big part of his favoured 11 last season. But I've just had a look through it. Those 4 players have only started in the league twice this season together. I mean, they've all started a lot more games than that, but together, actually all 4 of them. Bruno, because I'm talking about the attacking players here. To me, it's too many attacking players. I don't care who you're playing against. So with Bruno, Greenwood, Marshall and Rashford that the Manchester Evening News have suggested, which is going back to Wally's favoured team, which actually played against Sheffield United when we beat them 3-0 and Anthony Marshall got a hat-trick at Old Trafford. But those 4 players have only started together in the league against against Spurs. I know we had a man sent off, but we got beat 6-1 in that game. And they all also started at Brighton, where we won 3-2. But Brighton had the best of it really, and hit the woodwork numerous times. And we were pretty lucky to get away. Well, we were very lucky to come away with a win in that game. That's the only 2 games that all 4 players have played. Now you might think, oh, Sheffield United, you know, we'll beat them easily. Whoever he picks, but it's not. It doesn't work like that. It could, I believe, if he picks all 4 of those attacking players again, it might not work for us. Obviously, it could, but I wouldn't do it myself. The Evening Standard have gone with a very well, the exact same team, except they've said David De Gea will keep his place. So the Manchester Evening News went with Henderson. Actually, that was a slip of the tongue. I said it was the exact same team apart from Fred for Matic. It's also got Henderson in it for De Gea, hasn't it? The Manchester Evening News lineup. The Evening Standard have said it'll be exactly the same, except they've gone with De Gea. And then I've looked at the Independent. The Independent have gone with a very similar lineup. In fact, the Independent, and I've also looked at the Sports Mole as well. Sports Mole's gone with the exact same lineup as the Independent. And that lineup is David De Gea in goal, Wan-Bissaka, Lindelof, Maguire and Telles. So they're expecting Telles to get a game, as quite a lot of fans are. And then they've gone with McTominay and Fred, with Bruno as a number 10 behind Marshall and Rashford. They've also got Juan Mata in the team. So Juan Mata in place of Greenwood. That's in the Independent and on the Sports Mole. I like that a little bit better. I think it's got an extra midfield player. I know Greenwood did a great job against City, tracking back, being behind the ball. But tonight against Sheffield United, I would expect us to have more of the play. But I still believe that you need a player who naturally starts from his natural starting position is a little bit deeper. So if Greenwood and Rashford, I wouldn't expect Greenwood to play tonight and to be told you've got to stay back and you've got to, obviously you've got to track back if you're playing wide. You can't let the fullback have the free run of it, but you really have got to be, again, in any Premier League game, you can't afford to fall asleep, not be behind the ball when they do get the ball on the odd time. So you never know the moment that they might. I mean, I think they've only scored 5 goals in the league, but you never know the moment that they get another chance. So I'd prefer us just to be a little bit better balanced. As I say, Bruno, Marshall, Rashford and Greenwood have only started 2 games together, all 4 of them, and I'd go with that lineup. If I had to choose between the Evening News and the Independent, I would go with the Independent lineup. As I say, they've got Juan Mata in it. In place of Greenwood. I was keeping my eye on the Aston Villa score just before we came live. It was 0-0 at half time. If Villa were to win tonight, they're at home to Burnley. It's 0-0 at half time. If they were to win tonight, they would leapfrog us. And because their game against Sheffield United, their game against Newcastle was postponed because of there was COVID in the Newcastle camp, wasn't there? That game was suspended. So Villa are one of the few teams in the league who've actually got a game in hand on us. I'm not suggesting for one moment that we keep our eye on Villa. No disrespect if there's any Villa supporters watching. Obviously, United are looking further up the league. But Aston Villa will leapfrog us if they win. And if they win, we need to win to stay above Aston Villa. Which, I'll be honest with you, that surprised me when I looked at the table, especially considering that once we've both played our 2 games tonight, they will still have a game in hand on us. So if they win and we don't, Villa will actually be above us with a game in hand. So as I say, I'm not. We shouldn't really be concerning ourselves with that, but it's just an interesting thing that I've spotted in the table today. So the team news should be out any sec. I can ask my able assistant. Any news yet?
Nothing out yet. No, I'm keeping my eye on it. So
right, okay.
If anything drops.
So obviously, vital game. We've got to get the points. We need to climb the league. I was gutted last night. I was hoping for it to be even tighter today. I watched the Liverpool Spurs game. I could not believe that Spurs left Firmino in such space with, what was it? I think it was the 90th minute. I really didn't expect that to happen. A free header in the box for Firmino, and Liverpool ended up winning the game. It still hasn't changed the position for United so much. United were 5 points behind Liverpool with a game in hand. Obviously, that equates to 2 points behind them if you can win that game in hand. But now, obviously, with them playing last night and us playing tonight, we've got 2 games in hand and 7 points behind them. So the points in the bag are much better than the games in hand. So we need to teams out.
Teams out. Henderson, Lindelof, Maguire.
Yeah.
Telles and Bissaka.
Yeah.
Then we've got Matic, Pogba, and Fernandes.
Yeah.
Greenwood and Rashford.
And Marshall.
Marshall is yes, I'm Marshall. Sorry, excuse me.
Right. So we've got. So you said it's Henderson.
Yes, it's a back four. Wan-Bissaka at right back, Lindelof and Maguire at centre.
And Telles, yeah.
Telles at left back. Then it'll be Matic
and Pogba, yeah.
Pogba.
Yeah.
Fernandes at 10.
Yeah.
So we've got 4 forwards again.
Yeah.
Matic, Fernandes at 10, and then the front 3, Marshall at 9, and Rashford and Greenwood wide.
Matic and Pogba, I don't mind that if Pogba stays deep he did a good job on Saturday playing his defensive role wide left. He'll be more central tonight, obviously playing next to Matic. But as I've said earlier, this will be the 3rd league game in which all 4 of those attacking players are playing. I know it's Sheffield United. I know they're bottom of the league. I know they've only got 1 point, but I am a bit concerned by that. I really am. When you've got players that are playing from midfield rather than being wide attackers, Greenwood and Rashford naturally, they're number 9s really, and they're being asked to play wide, so they're attacking players. You've got players in front of the ball, and you've got players who want to be up the field, and I just believe that when you've got proper wingers who track back, that then you're springing forward and you're forcing them back, and you can get behind the ball and you can force it forward. You can attack better. I believe you can attack better from a deeper position rather than being a little bit further up the field and waiting for the ball. So I'm a little bit, I'll be honest, I'm a little bit concerned by that lineup. I'm pleased Matic is getting a game. Don't mind Pogba playing next to him. I would have preferred McTominay to play that role. McTominay and Matic together, I would like to have seen. But obviously Pogba's doing his work diligently lately, I've got to say that. So I think we'll be okay with Pogba and Matic. But I just think all 4 of those attacking players might be 1 too many, if not 2 too many. Any questions coming through?
Yeah, a few questions. So Sean Brennan. Ricky, do you think maybe Ollie's resting some players like Shaw, McTominay, Fred with an eye on Sunday versus Leeds?
Yes, Shaw, definitely. He probably thinks Telles can get forward tonight and deliver some decent crosses into the box. So I'm sure he'll be resting Shaw. I think Shaw will play on Sunday as long as he's fully fit. Of course, we don't know that for a fact. Shaw did have a little bit of a niggle on Saturday, didn't he, against City? He went down and needed treatment, didn't he? About 15 minutes before the end. But I assume he's fit. He hasn't said he's not fit. In fact, have you got the substitutes bench there? Is Shaw on the substitutes bench? Can you check that?
So the substitutes bench looks like De Gea, Shaw, Fred, Mata, McTominay, Van der Beek, and James.
Right, okay. Dan James on the bench, yeah. I was thinking that today. Dan James actually got 2 assists there last season, didn't he, at Sheffield United? And sometimes managers think about things like that. But yeah, back to Sean asking the question about resting players. I think Shaw's definitely been rested. Then he's on the bench, as we say. Telles is getting a start there, and he probably thinks that's a good attacking move as well. And then, obviously, I think Sean mentioned McTominay and Fred. Definitely agree with that. I think you will see both McTominay and Fred restored to the lineup. Fred's not even on the bench, is he, tonight? He's not, is he? Sure.
Yes,
Fred's on the bench. Right, okay. So yeah, I think you'll see Fred and McTominay back in the starting lineup at weekend. Anything else?
Yeah, a few more. Harvey and Raj, Ricky. If they sit deep, do you think Mata will be better rather than Greenwood?
100% agree with that. 100%. I mean, I always say this. The funny thing about football is everybody's got their own style of play. Managers have got their own style of play. Players have got their own style of play. And when Greenwood's wide on the right, whenever he's got the opportunity, he likes to try and cut in and have a shot. Now, sometimes it might work for you. He might smash one in the first 10 minutes today. If we score in the first 10 minutes, we might go on to win by 3 or 4. It can happen. I'm a great believer in percentages. I believe we'd have a better chance of breaking Sheffield United down if Juan Mata was playing wide on the right. More intricate passes, cuter passes, great football vision. A lot of people, when you talk about vision, they think about long passes. I like to talk about vision, seeing the short passes, seeing little runs, seeing little 1-2s. I would like to see Juan Mata play in that position. I do think he'd be more dangerous and more dangerous for the team. It might not be him who scores the goal. It might not even be him who gets an assist. You know, I mean, Juan Mata sees the little runs that the fullbacks make if he's in the right position, and he might put somebody in who squares it across the goal, and we get a goal from it. So he doesn't have to score, and he doesn't have to assist. He's just a very intelligent player who sees the right pass, and I would love to see Juan Mata start tonight. Obviously, it's not to be. As I've just said, Greenwood might smash one in early doors. We might go on to win comfortably. But percentage-wise, I believe if we played Sheffield United 10 times with this lineup, or we played them 10 times with a lineup with Juan Mata in it instead, I believe the lineup with Juan Mata in it would win more often. That's what I mean by percentages. So I would have liked to have seen Mata play, but it doesn't mean that we still can't beat them comfortably. It could happen.
Josh Harper, Ricky, I'm losing my mind over the McTominay criticism. To me, he was everywhere in the derby, and he's so young. If Carrick thinks he's good enough, that's fine for me.
Josh, I couldn't agree with you more. In the derby, I take it you watched Josh. I don't know if you want to answer in the comments, but I did. We did. The player in focus was voted on, and it was 42%, I think, of votes went for Scott McTominay. And I did a player in focus of Scott, and I put 11 clips, I think, on Twitter, action clips of him in the derby match. And when you watch a game live, you're excited and you want your team to do well, and little things that go wrong sometimes stick in your mind. And if somebody does something really good, that sticks in your mind. Sometimes players do something really good when they haven't actually had such a good game, and sometimes a player can have a great game yet make one horrendous mistake. So it's easy to have your judgment clouded straight after a game. If you watch it again, it's better to watch it then when you're calmer and you know that your team's either won, lost or drawn while you're watching it. But then, even further than that, because he was player in focus, I've actually watched the game a third time, but actually concentrated on him. I've actually watched that game, and every minute of that game, I've actually had my eyes on Scott McTominay if he's on the screen. Let's be honest, all we've all got to look at is what's on the screen. So there's no point saying, what was he doing at this moment if he's not on the screen? If he's not on the screen, there's not much you can do about it. And if, by the way, if anybody wants to jump in and say, well, we were defending at one point and he wasn't anywhere to be seen, you know, it still doesn't matter. He might have just been on an attack and coming back. So you've only got what you can see on the screen. And I've studied his game in that game, and he was absolutely superb. I gave him 8 out of 10. A few people questioned 8 out of 10, saying that many. Do you know what? If I'd only have to be a little bit more generous, and I could easily give him a 9. He had a superb game. Josh.
Josh says I agree. I agree with you, but our fans seem to think he's just a passion merchant. Like that's a bad thing, by the way. Not many rate him.
Yeah, well, I hear that phrase a lot, Josh, that passion merchant. I don't hear it levelled at Fred, by the way. And yet, you know, lots of people, I don't know what it is. It's a difficult thing to put your finger on, really. I hear lots and lots of people talking about Fred and how much his energy is important. That's the main thing you hear. His energy is important and how he gets about the field. Yeah, I don't hear him labelled as a passion merchant, so I don't really understand that. But like you say, like you've just said, Josh, it's not a bad thing playing with passion. You want all your players to play with passion, but at the same, obviously you want ability as well. But you know, passion will do to start with, if you like, definitely.
Roger Bell would have been a perfect game to rest Bruno and give Van der Beek a game today.
Do you know what, Roger? I couldn't agree with you more. I don't know, Van der Beek. Honestly, he must be kicking himself sat there on the bench. Another game goes by and he's sat on the bench. There's a few people said to me it didn't go so well at West Ham when we rested Bruno and Greenwood, but Bruno and Rashford we rested at West Ham, and it didn't go well in the first half, and we did make the substitutions at half time, but it also didn't go well at Southampton the week before when Bruno did play and Rashford did start. And it also didn't go well against West Brom at Old Trafford. I mean, 0-0 against West Brom at Old Trafford at half-time. All right, we won it 1-0 in the end with a penalty as well. So, you know, we haven't been doing well in the first half of games. We really haven't. So the West Ham game wasn't much different to any other game. It really wasn't. People are saying that's what happened when we rested the players. The way we've been going recently in the first half of games, it probably would have still happened if we hadn't made those changes. So we'll never know now, of course, but there's no reason to assume that game wouldn't have just been exactly the same in the first half if we'd have kept the team as it was. It was similar to that the week before. In fact, we were 2-0 down at half-time the week before, and obviously we were 0-0 with West Brom the week before that. So I really don't get that. People just want to see it, that, you know, their player makes a difference when he's playing, you know, their favourite player, and then when he comes on as a sub, he makes a difference. But like I say, those players were playing in the previous two games, and the first half didn't go well in those games either.
James Paddock, Sheffield United fan here. I'm just praying we get a result today. Love your stuff, Rick.
Nice one, James. So Sheffield United, eh? While you're on then, James, I went to Sheffield United. I don't know how old you are, mate. You probably won't remember this. I'm going to assume you're a bit younger than me. I went to see Sheffield United play Man United when Trevor Rocky was playing for Sheffield United. And I'm sure you'll know your history, even if you're not old enough. But Sheffield United, Bramhall Lane was a cricket ground. Yorkshire Cricket Club, I mean, a lot of United fans watching this won't know this, but when I was a young man, Yorkshire Cricket Club used to share the games around the different parts of Yorkshire, and they used to play a lot of games at Headingley, but they also used to play cricket at Bramhall Lane. And if you went to watch a football game at Bramhall Lane in those days, there was only 3 sides to the stadium, and then because obviously a cricket field is twice the size of a football field, so on one side of the football pitch, it was just a completely open expanse of grass. It was an amazing sight, really. You wouldn't see it today, but it was a cricket ground as well as a football ground when I was a young man. And there you go, just a little bit of history for you.
Rahul Krishna, Ricky, do you think he doesn't rate VDB?
I don't know if he's... Some of the things Ollie does, look, how can I put this? Some of the things that the fans say, like the fans have said to me, look how badly it went against West Ham, and I've just said, well, it only went the same against Southampton, and it only went the same against West Brom. I sometimes think Ollie just thinks just like the fans do. I really do. I don't get it. You know, he's give him a chance. It didn't go great. Fair enough, it didn't go great, but he has played really well in 2 or 3 games. He started against Leipzig. You see, Leipzig at Old Trafford. Well, we've seen how good Leipzig are now. They've knocked us out in the end. But Leipzig at Old Trafford, Van der Beek started at number 10. Now, again, people will say, yeah, but the difference happened. The difference happened when the subs were made. But the subs were made after 70 minutes. We were winning 1-0 after 70 minutes. Trust me, being 1-0 up again, look, they started throwing caution to the wind a bit. They left themselves open at the back. But being 1-0 up against Leipzig after 70 minutes was a tremendous effort, a tremendous result. And we were really working hard for that and playing well for that. Matic was playing in that game. Van der Beek was playing in that game. And I know we won 5-0 in the end. As I've just said, though, it doesn't mean that if those players would have started, that would have been 2, 3 or 4 up by that stage. Well, it really doesn't. And you can see that from what happened in Germany. So he was brilliant in that game, Van der Beek, and he's played well in numerous games where he has had a chance. So why on earth he would think like that? But it does appear to me that Ollie sometimes, just like some of the fans, thinks, wow, we can't manage without Bruno, and Van der Beek's nowhere near. And I don't think it's as cut and dried as that. I really don't.
Darth Vader.
Go on, Darth.
Bruno is pathetic on the ball, Ricky.
Yeah. Right. Well, I'll tell you what, Darth. I think you might be going a little bit over the top there, but he does give it away too often, and a lot of people say to me that he's trying to kill a ball, and he's the one who's trying the risky passes. It's not always the risky passes that he loses it with. He gives it away a bit too often for me with simple passes where he is trying to keep it simple. But he is a better player when he keeps it simple, though. He obviously gives it away less often when he's keeping it simple. But as I've just said, I've re-watched that Derby game, and I've put some clips on Twitter about Scott McTominay, and numerous times I've seen Bruno where he's got a simple pass on and he's tried a crossfield pass that's gone straight to the full-back, and there's no real reason for him to try a crossfield pass. I've seen him try a long ball through to Marcus Rashford when he was running through the inside left channel. The chances of it coming off are virtually zero. It got cut. The one I'm talking about is the one that John Stones cut out on the edge of his own penalty area. And I don't know if I need to point this out to people, but you can't afford to give the ball away. That one that he tried a long pass, the one that John Stones cut out, as I say, I've watched it 2 or 3 times. It's the one where City actually break away, and it ends up with Mahrez having a one-on-one with De Gea, and De Gea blocks it, and that's from us trying a long pass that isn't really on. So I do believe we really have got to cut it out and start playing more simply. And the way Van der Beek plays it is the way I would like my number 10 to play.
Tormund 638, Rick, I have a question. 18-19 season, we conceded 54 goals with Smalling and Lindelof. 19-20 season, we conceded 36 with Maguire and Lindelof. Why didn't we try Maguire left centre-back with Smalling right centre-back?
Ollie seemed to have a downer on numerous players. When he came in, when Ollie got the job, he almost immediately had certain players in his vision, if you like, that he didn't rate and didn't give a chance to.
In his crosshairs.
Yeah. I've noticed, for example, Matteo Darmian's playing virtually every game for Inter Milan at the moment. Inter Milan beat Napoli 1-0 last night. And I think Matteo Darmian's a good player, I really do. Never gave him a chance. And there's numerous other players who I think are decent players. And Chris Smalling, I think Chris Smalling's a top player. And he was against Smalling, wasn't he? Smalling did play a few games, though, and Smalling was one of the players that played at Goodison Park when we got beat 4-0. But again, when I talk about the way fans look at it, lots of fans will look at that and go, wow, look, sometimes these things happen in football. Do you know what I mean? We got beat 6-1 by Spurs. Why, after we got beat 6-1 by Spurs, why didn't you say, well, I'm never going to pick Harry Maguire again, or I'm never going to pick Lindelof again? These things just can happen. What about Liverpool? Van Dijk was still fit at the time when they got beat 7-2 by Villa. So Ollie really threw his rattle out of the pram when we got beat 4-0 at Goodison, rather than just relaxing and thinking, look, these things happen, and let's have a real good close look at these players. I mean, I've heard him say a couple of times that some of the players give up and they won't be able. But not many of the players have actually gone, I don't think, who were playing on that day.
Shabir, Ricky, do you think Ollie is trying this game to see if all the players who are mostly attack-minded will be able to perform their defensive duties as well, like Greenwood and Pogba did against City?
It's a good question, Shabir, but I'd have to say no. I think he's picked this team. Like I've just said, Bruno, Greenwood, Marshall and Rashford have only all started twice before in the league. And this was his lineup. that won, his attacking lineup, that won 4 games on the bounce by 3 clear goals. One of those games being Sheffield United, by the way. My honest opinion is that Ollie has selected this lineup tonight thinking that we can blow them away. I hope we win. If we can blow them away, that's great. But I just think he's barking up the wrong tree. Don't forget, as I've said, it can happen. You might get an early goal. The goals change games. But I'm not happy with all 4 of those attacking players starting in the game, and I don't think Ollie's. Obviously they've got defensive work to do, but I think Ollie thinks we're going to spend a lot of time camped in their half, which we probably will. And if we camped in their half all the time, strikers like to find a bit of room as well. Don't forget this little bit. If we're camped in their half and we're proper on top of them all the time, if you've got 2 wide players who stay wide, there's more space for like your 2 centre. Bruno gets right up the top quite often. There's more space for him to work in. And, Anthony Marshall, he likes to come and receive the ball. And if he's at centre forward and Marcus has tucked inside a little bit, which happens a lot, sometimes he'll want to run into that space and Marcus will be there. Sometimes when you're playing football, your own teammates are closing your space down. Not just the defenders. If they're defending really deep, they might have a bank of, I don't know how they're going to operate. They might have a bank of 5 and a bank of 4. And if we've got 6 players amongst that bank of 5 and a bank of 4, it could easily be that it's just too messy, if you like, and too difficult to find space. As I say, I hope it works. You could smash one in at any moment, but I just think it's too many attacking players.
Rahul again. I think the reason Bruno gives the ball away so much is because he gets told to play that way by the coaches. I haven't seen one bad game from him for Portugal. What do you think of our coaches?
I'm not sure. Is he told to play like that? I'm sure he is told to play like that. Our coaches must surely be watching the games back like I do. They must surely realise that he's giving it away too often, but for whatever reason, they're not worried about it. Obviously he's getting a lot of assists. Look, anybody who's a mad Bruno fan, like most United fans are, will say he's the boy who's getting the assists. But most of his, not just most, but virtually all of his assists are coming from simple passes. They're not really coming from difficult passes. Even the ones that have come from fairly long passes. I remember his assist for Rashford away to Brighton. I remember his assist away to Newcastle, which was Marcus Rashford again. But even though they were slightly longer passes, they were different. They were different in as much as the defenders were up by the halfway line. When the defenders are up by the halfway line, there's oceans of space in behind them. And in those situations, the long ball needs to be played. It's a completely opposite thing. When their defence is up on the halfway line, there's space for our quick players to run into. That's when you should be playing a long ball for somebody to run onto. So anybody who wants to come back at me and say, look, he played a long ball against Newcastle that was an assist, and he played a long ball against Brighton that was an assist, those were balls that I would expect him to play. Those were passes that I would expect any of our players, even our defenders, I would expect them to play that ball. You win the ball back, you're only 20 yards from the man that you're passing it to, and he's got oceans of space in behind, so you've got to knock it into that space. The long balls that need to be cut out is when their defenders are deeper, and we're trying long balls over the top when their defenders are only, 30 yards from their goal or 35 yards from it. There's a lot less space for it to land and Rashford or Martial to run onto. So most of his assists, virtually all of his assists, are from simple passes. So I really don't get it. People are saying, he's the man making the assists. Not with them difficult passes over the top with a team that are backtracking. No, they're not coming from those sort of passes.
Subriyotti Roy says, why does Ollie not trust James? He's a superb player who needs proper nurturing. Do you think he's going to Leeds? Bielsa likes him and he's no dummy.
Bielsa does like him. I think he might go on loan to Leeds. He must be champing at the bit for a bit of football. I rate him. I'm glad somebody else rates him. A lot of United fans don't rate him. I've watched him play for Wales. Plenty of the teams Wales play against All right, most of them would probably be struggling in the Premier League, but probably no more so than some of the teams like playing. No disrespect again, playing a team that have got 1 point tonight, Sheffield United. I'm sure most of the international teams that he plays with, because that's the only time you can see him play these days, is when you watch him play for Wales. Most of them international teams would have at least 1 point, I imagine, if they were playing in the Premier League. And Dan James plays really well. He scored a cracking goal. I think that was against the Republic of Ireland, in fact, I think. But he actually scored a cracking goal from the D that I saw. But it's not just about goals. People will think, everyone bangs on about the goals, but that was a great goal. But his assists are brilliant. He gets down the line, he gets crosses over. And what I love about him most is the way he understands. A lot of people talk about his brain. He understands the game, Dan James. He gets the ball. He sort of threatens to take the fullback on, but if the fullback's got cover, he checks back and passes it and makes himself available to receive it again. Sometimes I see him, well, quite often I see him run it across the field a little bit and give an easy pass, go back into position, hope to get it back. I just think he's a really good player, Dan James, and I don't understand what other people see or why they don't rate him. One of the things that the fans don't like is the mere fact that he's not registering enough goals or assists. To start with, when you talk about his lack of goals or assists, he's not had a lot of game time either. You can only score or assist when you're playing. That's one thing. He's not had a lot of game time, and I just think, especially when the team's playing better with a bit more confidence, I think you would see goals and assists from Dan James if he got enough game time. But when it's going to happen, I don't know. I do like the kid. I think he's a good player. And the way it's looking to me, I would wish him all the best if he went to Leeds on loan in January. I really would. I'd love him to do well there.
It's a funny thing that because he's such a good decision maker, it has a detrimental effect on his statistics.
Yeah.
Because Bruno's, I agree with you. I think Bruno's a poor decision maker and constantly tries to force the killer ball and tries to have that shot that maybe isn't on. And a lot of the time, you get a deflected goal out of it. You get an assist that maybe wouldn't have been an assist. And it really pads those stats, and that comes from making bad decisions. So it's almost like, because people are using the statistics to rate the player, the fact that James is such a good decision maker goes against himself. You know what I mean? It doesn't help him with the fans at all, does it? It's almost like if he was a poorer decision maker, the fans
they might like him more if he had more shots. And tried some more longer passes. They might like him more. Yeah. I like him more because he doesn't.
I thought that was interesting as well, what you just mentioned about the goal that he scored on international duty. Obviously, he's getting lots of minutes for Wales. He's playing regularly.
Plays all the time, yeah.
But the way that a lot of United fans talk about him, you'd think he was completely and utterly incapable of the spectacular.
Yes.
It's not like...
Yeah.
There is something there. He is capable of doing some spectacular things when it's on.
Correct.
And it's obvious that Greenwood may get more of those spectacular contributions because he attempts them more. He's better at it as well, to be fair. I'm sure he is. He's got thunder in his boots, Greenwood, but he does attempt it more, and he's another one to me who attempts it a bit too often. You're probably, I'm assuming we're going to have lots of the ball in the final third tonight. And I think you will see Mason Greenwood attempting shots tonight that are not really on, and they'll be getting. He often shoots when there's a defender standing right in front of him. In fact, I will watch for this, and I won't be surprised to see him. He'll probably just smash one in the top corner in the first 5 minutes. Now I've said this, but I would expect to see him shooting against the defender's legs a few times tonight. Really, that's what I would expect to see. Big C stats. Ricky, you're the only one who speaks pure factual sense about football and the basic principles needed on YouTube.
Thank you, what's he called? Big C.
Big C stats.
Hi, Big C. Thank you very much for that. Appreciate it.
And then he goes on to say it's almost madness to play 5 attacking players. I just hope Matic isn't left alone.
Yeah, 100% Big C. Could not agree with you more. I do think Pogba will have been told. I do think they're a little bit better at the minute than they were early season at this. I think Pogba will be instructed to stay more central and stay deeper and stay next to Matic. I would like to have seen McTominay next to Matic, who does it naturally and won't. Pogba being Pogba, and I don't blame him for this. It's in his makeup. he's going to want to get forward. He's going to want to try and score goals. And a lot of the fans and maybe a lot of people watching this will be thinking, wow, that's what we want, isn't it? Well, it is what you want, but you don't want it from every player. There's too many players who are going to get caught up the field. So I hope Pogba's under strict instruction today that he's rarely got to go forward, because we've already got enough forwards. We've got more than enough forwards. We need a couple of people remaining behind the ball, and that job tonight will be Pogba's and Matic's.
Callum Shivers, Rick, we will miss Cavani massively in this game like this. Tellers cross to Cavani would be a common factor against these low block teams. Do you agree?
Yeah. I would have liked Cavani to have been available. He's another one who started at West Ham and it didn't go great. But as I said earlier, it often doesn't go well for us in the first half anyway. In fact, I think he got subbed at half time, didn't he, Cavani? I think he was one of the two. He was one of the two players who got subbed at half time. But I do think he's going to be a top player for us. Obviously, I should have mentioned this news earlier, but we've had the news today that the FA have charged him, haven't they? I'm not sure I agree with that. It was all like, look, it's not a nice thing to say. What went on his it wasn't his Twitter account, was it? His Instagram. But it's from the country. It's okay saying you need to educate people, and it does need educating. It needs to be told he's in Western Europe now, and you don't say that in Western Europe. It's not what you should say, and it is wrong. But at the same time, he's from a different culture where it isn't meant as a derogatory term what he said. So he's from a different culture, and to me, he needs to be educated, and he needs a slap on the wrist. I don't think he deserves a suspension, but I can imagine a 3-match suspension coming his way.
I think social media in general is a dangerous thing.
It's a dangerous area, yeah. It's a dangerous area.
Cosimo Di Medici, Pogba plays alongside Kante for France in midfield and does just fine.
Fantastic point. I watched them play Portugal, and he played next to Kante, and I thought he was absolutely. In fact, I think I did a thread on it.
Yeah.
Not a thread. We did a show on it, didn't we?
Yes.
I think it's called. You can find it if you want to see it. Pogba Superb in Lisbon, I think it's called.
Yes, correct. Yeah.
And so I watched that game, and I thought Pogba was superb in that game, as the YouTube shows. Yeah,
I'll put a link in the description after the show, Cosimo, if you want to go back and look at that video. But yeah, you mentioned during that show that he seems to play with a different level of discipline.
His discipline in that game was fantastic.
Which seems to point back to the coaching again. Obviously, we're concerned about Rashford and Greenwood not having the defensive duties.
Yeah.
More to them, it seems.
More than one type of discipline, 2 types of discipline for a player like Pogba. He likes to show what he can do. He likes to play. He likes to play extravagant passes sometimes. So he had discipline in his positional sense, but he also had discipline in that he didn't start being flamboyant with the ball. Lots and lots of 1-touch and 2-touch passes, and rarely venturing out of his position. So he really was superb in that game. As I say, there is a show there, and we'll put the link up later for it. We're past 7:30. So should we have one? Is there one more to go out there?
John K. Question for Ricky.
Go on, John.
If you could have a free pick of any other Premier League player for United, who would it be?
Oh goodness me, that's too hard.
It's too hard.
That's too hard. I'll name a couple. I won't pick any Liverpool players. I'd love to have 2 or 3 of Liverpool's players. Just mentioning Liverpool, by the way, they're driving me mad. They had a young kid, 19, playing centre-half last night, Rice Williams. He looks absolutely fantastic, making his Premier League debut, marking Harry Kane. It broke my heart. Absolutely broke my heart. Where are they getting them from? But I won't mention Liverpool players. I'd love to have Harry Kane. Or I would like to have. I wouldn't mind having N'Golo Kante. Should we leave it at that?
Yeah. I thought you was going to go with Johnny Evans.
Yeah, I wouldn't mind having Johnny Evans back. There's been rumours, hasn't there? Yeah. There has been rumours. We do need a centre back.
Yeah.
We do need a centre back, because whether it's a centre back to start in the starting lineup, they don't seem to trust Bailey. Axel, they don't seem to trust him. He's not getting enough run outs at all. So I don't think they really fancy any of the other centre backs. So we need another centre back, even if it's only as backup. So you know, the rumours are that we have been thinking about getting Johnny Evans back, and I wouldn't be against it. Okay. If you've enjoyed that show, please subscribe. Please tell all your friends. If you didn't enjoy it, don't tell anyone. Keep stum. 120 odd again or so much on, or any better.